Welcome to the CFB Dynasty Podcast with hosts Matt Knowles, Brian McElfresh, and Doug Gravely.
How you doing out there, everybody? It is time once again for the CFB Dynasty Podcast. As you see, we are 1/3 of the hosts short today. My name is Matt Knowles. This guy over here is Brian McElfresh. Doug Gravely is in a contract holdout. He said, listen, BMAC does not give me enough golf games and donuts per week. He wants a couple more donuts. BMAC, how is that contract negotiation standing? Do you think you guys are going to be able to get this NIL deal worked out?
We're working with a local place called Tastios. We'll see. He might be able to get like $4 extra a week, and in progress. We're hopeful to have him back by the next one.
All right, good stuff. Doug is actually under the weather today. Doug, hope you feel better. So me and BMAC, we're going to be covering this thing, and we still want you to get some more donuts, my man. Anyways, today's show, we're going to be talking about who they think are going to be the top wide receivers in the college football video game that's coming out soon. BMAC, are you excited about the game going to be coming out soon? What are your plans for release date? What do you expect is going to happen in the McElfresh household when that video game comes out?
You know, actually, I haven't, or it hit me yesterday. It's like, holy crap, it's May, which means the video game's like 2 months away, which means like Phil Steele is coming out really soon, magazine. And it all just signals like, oh yeah, college football is on the way. I think we're 112 days till kickoff, but you start getting those feels now. And yeah, man, I'm excited about it, but I found out like I'm in this loop with EA where my EA account is tied to an old business email that I can't access anymore. So I'm in some loop where I can't affiliate it with my gamer tag. I don't really play video games much anymore, but me and my kids have been playing the latest rendition of FIFA FC24, and I've got to figure that out before the NCAA game comes out, or the CFB25 game comes out.
I can tell you when back in the day, I mean, we're talking almost a decade, or probably about a decade since we were doing our intense dynasties we used to have, and those things were epic, man. I mean, every one of us would spend probably 2-3 hours a day playing those games, whether it was head to head or in our own individual games. I know ain't nobody got time for that now, so it'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds.
With a little less sleep, we can all make it happen.
Hey, I feel like I'm at that level right now that I can't cut any more sleep out. But you know what?
You probably are.
All right. So like I said, today we're going to be talking about who they think are going to be the top 10 wide receivers in the upcoming college football video game. If you go up onto the CFBDynasty.com website, we do have an article up there about it. We've covered quarterbacks, we've covered running backs, we've covered wide receivers. BMAC, are these articles free right now, or are these ones you have to be a subscriber for? Okay, so these are all free articles, but we're now getting into the part of the year where you want to be a subscriber to the website. Why? Because you want to get a leg up on everybody in your draft. You want to be able to be studying the depth charts. You want to be able to say, okay, I've got a single yearly redraft league, or I've got a holdover league, or I've got a Devi league where it's college to Canton, and I want to be able to get the information that's going to apply to my league. Because if you're in a redraft league every year, that may not be what you want for a college to Canton kind of league, for a college to pro. So CFB Dynasty does a great job of getting all the different variations of the information up there. BMAC, you want to tell them, I know there's been a lot of things you've been trying to work on, is what's going to be new for these subscribers. It may have been somebody for the 2022 or 23 season that they might see a little bit differently this year on the website as a subscriber.
Yeah, for sure. So I just made a note of myself because I realized our rankings page, which is a very popular page, doesn't have the Draft Central links to it. So I will fix that later today. But if you go to Draft Prep on the main navigation, I will go ahead and present my screen. If you go over to Draft Prep, you'll see Draft Central. Is the first option. You can click on that. That's where we have, and everything is free at CFB except for the degenerates that want the super deep rankings, quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and tight ends are done for a standard college fantasy league, and then they're also done for Devy. And we are keeping these things up to date as quickly as possible with the news and notes. So you'll see Damian Martinez, for example, updated at Miami. You'll see Dylan Edwards updated from Colorado to Kansas State. We still do have to adjust their logos on these rankings. So if you click on them right now, you'll see Dylan Edwards with a Colorado logo, but those are going to be updated pretty quickly. Uh, every projection and everything now reflects their new team. I just have to update those logos on people that are moving around all throughout the portal.
All right. So again, yeah, if you want to be able to have a leg up on your your league mates, you want to get into the CFBDynasty.com subscriber list. You also want to go up to the Discord and become a part of the Discord group. It kind of takes a little bit of a hiatus in the off season because people aren't thinking about daily college football stuff. But when the season comes around, I'm just saying, I'm not talking generally, man. There's a lot more involvement up there. Questions, people talking about would you start or sit this guy? So it's fun. So go up there to the CFB Dynasty Discord group and join that as well.
I will be honest, our Discord right now sucks, but it's just, I think it's like you said, there's not a lot of people interested in talking in the weeds essentially right now. There's a lot of things changing. I think a lot of people will come back when it's everything's kind of settled. We're getting into fall camps. We got media days happening and all that. That's when we see a massive uptick every year. So we will definitely get the Discord rolling along. So if you join in and don't see anything, it eventually will be alive and well.
All right, good stuff. So before we get into some more college news and notes and to the video game stuff, just last week we had the NFL draft. And especially for those of you in a Devy league, especially for people like Brian and myself that are now 15-year veterans of playing college to pro, we wanted to just quickly talk about, off the top of our heads, who we think landed in the best position for pro success, who we think landed in the worst position for pro success. And that doesn't mean that the player got drafted bad. It just means that they might have got drafted into a running back room that's loaded or something like that. So BMAC, why don't you just real quick tell us who you're, right off the top of your head, your first best place that you think a guy went?
I mean, the obvious one I love where Xavier Worthy went in Kansas City. So I think that's one where we're going to see what his target share is. You know, you got Rashee Rice issues, but I think those are going to be probably minimal at best and only affect a portion of one season, and then he'll be back doing his thing. But I like Worthy there. I'm in the spot where, like, going into the draft, I was literally, with the guys that came over and watched the draft with me. It's like, I hate having two wide receivers on the same team. The only exceptions to me would be like Cincinnati with a pocket passer, and then Mahomes in Kansas City. So I've got Rice and Worthy on my, dynasty team. So we'll see how it goes. But I like him. I like Xavier Leggett a lot in Carolina. I think he's got a chance to end up being their wide receiver one if he, develops. It's always risky to have like a 1 year breakout player, especially at his age. He was like a 5th year guy. So we'll see how that one goes. But I like it. And Marvin Harrison Jr. could be a top 5 fantasy receiver in the NFL year one. Like, they got the luck of the draw sort of with the injury to Kyler Murray, allowed them to have this high pick. They take Marvin Harrison Jr., the best wide receiver in a while. And as far as the worst scenario goes, probably A.D. Mitchell. A lot of people wanted him to go to the Bills and end up being their wide receiver one. He was mocked there a lot and ended up in the Colts with Anthony Richardson. Obviously a dual threat quarterback is going to have less targets to the wide receivers. And I don't see A.D. Mitchell taking over wide receiver one from Pittman, at least not in the first couple years. How about you?
I've made it no bones about the fact that Roma Dunze was my number one receiver going into the draft. And I don't think there's a better spot for him from a fantasy perspective than where he went to the Bears, because he and Caleb Williams were already developing a relationship prior to the draft. They actually were on the same plane, and there's pictures of them on the same plane going to the draft, which is kind of cool. And then for them to get drafted by the same team, from a psychological standpoint, think about it like this. You got a brand new quarterback going number one in the draft, and before he even meets the players on his team, he's already met the other rookie that's there. You've got no tape. You've got no tape of Williams and Odunze together on the Bears. You don't have any pro tape there. I think that Odunze has a chance to be the number one stat getter from a rookie perspective there. I think that's just a really good place for him. My worst, the obvious, again, not for him as a human being. I think Michael Penix is in a great spot in that Aaron Rodgers spot where he might be able to sit for a couple of years before getting on the field. But if you're somebody that rode Michael Penix, I know in the CFB Dynasty Open League last year, Penix was my guy. If I was in a Devy League, I'd be really bummed right now because Penix basically comes off your board for a couple of years at least. And unless you've got a deep roster, you might not even be able to hold on to him, because that's going to be holding up a quarterback spot for multiple years, hoping he can get on the field.
I do look forward to the flashbacks, though. You get that left-handed quarterback in that all-black Atlanta uniform. You get the Michael Vick flashbacks. Penix does throw a pretty ball. So, and when he does get his opportunity, the weapons are there.
Oh yeah, I love Penix.
Yeah,
I just say, from a you might not get something out of him for a couple years.
Yep.
It's going to be tough. And then as a, even though I'm a Miami Dolphin fan,
and he's not 21 either.
Yeah, he's not 21. Yeah, he doesn't have that elongated end on his career. He's already halfway there. So even though I'm a Miami Dolphin fan, from a pure fantasy perspective, I think Jalen Wright to Miami, even though the rich get richer, the fast get faster, the Dolphins have got an absolute track team. Jalen Wright had a play last year that was like 1 mile an hour faster than any play that any of the Dolphins had, which is insane. But from a pure fantasy perspective, I don't think that he's going to be able to do much, because look at how absolutely loaded that team is. When you talk about the wide receivers that are out there, you've got 4 or 5 good running backs. Unless they start to like split out one of the running backs at like a slot receiver, I don't think you're going to see him get a lot of stats to start. But over the next year or two, he might be able to get a little more action. And then again, every single year, one of my guys that I really, really like gets drafted by a team that just makes it really brutal for me to be able to root for him. And Malachi Corley, from a fantasy perspective, he's probably in a good spot being there with Aaron Rodgers. But from a me fantasy perspective, I'm going to have a really tough time with Malachi Corley being on the Jets, because, I want him to do well, but come on, he's a Jet now. That sucks.
Oh man, that's fine.
All right, so that's just some quick thoughts. We'd love to know what your thoughts are. We'd love to hear in the comments or on the Discord what you think are the best landing spots or the worst landing spots for guys in a Devy perspective, college to pro. So BMAC, with that out of the way, why don't we get to some news and notes?
Let's go. Yeah, and first shout out to the commenters. That's much appreciated. Thank you.
News and notes around college football.
So we normally get pretty in-depth when it comes to the news and notes, but that's something that Doug normally does. So BMAC went and made sure he pulled out some of the most important things that we want to make sure you guys don't sleep on that has happened since the last time we did a show. So BMAC, what do you got right now for some quick top-end news and notes?
Yeah, so this one's purely based on talent. A quarterback from Oklahoma that transferred, Nick Evers, to UConn. And that's one that's definitely someone to like keep on your radar as like a late round pick in CFF redrafts. Not going to run your team or anything, but someone that you can pick in Dynasty too, and hope that his high 4-star rating at a smaller school like UConn really pays off Dylan Edwards, who was slotted to be RB1 at Colorado, transferred out. He goes to Kansas State to play with his childhood buddy that played together with Avery Johnson as kids. And he'll go be DJ Giddens' backup. I'm sure he'll eat into Giddens a little bit, and that's going to be kind of a theme of this news and notes update. So that kind of stinks.
Yeah. I find Dylan Edwards leaving there. I mean, I don't know if it's just the typical churn, but I feel like there's some weirdness happening around Colorado. There was a lot of shine on Colorado last year, and I think there could still be some, but there's just been a lot of negativity, it sounds like, coming out of the people that are transferring out. Like, I don't remember there being a situation where you've seen so much negativity coming out of the players that are transferring out. Normally it's like, hey, I wanted a better opportunity. I have a spot where I can, I was glad to be at the school and I appreciate being at the school, but I'm looking for another opportunity. And it seems like a lot of the guys transferring out of Colorado have had a lot of negative stuff to say. So it'll be interesting to see how that stuff plays out.
Yeah, and I haven't read it. I know there's an Athletic article out there. I haven't read that yet. So apparently it's really good. I guess depending on which side of the perspective you're on. But Penny Boone, who transferred out from Toledo, right? I think so. I'm blanking for sure, but I'm pretty sure that's it. To Louisville, and then he transferred to UCF. So never played for Louisville, wasn't in the spring game, and he had already decided he was heading out. And really, he's not going to start at UCF either because they've got RJ Harvey there. And right now, RJ Harvey is our projected RB9. That's probably going to dip a bit now that he'll have Penny Boone behind him. We'll eat into some of the carries and all that, but Penny Boone will be great at UCF should he be the starter the following year. Marquez Cooper transferred from to San Diego State, where his old running back coach is now the coach there. And so he'll take over as RB1, and he's moved in, let me see, on our standard redraft league. So he was obviously not on a roster for a while there, so he was just absent from the rankings. He comes in at RB23. We've got him projected at 214 fantasy points on the season there at San Diego State. And then Damian Martinez to Miami. So that one, interesting. They should have a much improved O-line. They were very young last year, but very talented. So that year 1 to year 2 jump for a premier O-line can be really good. And Damian Martinez, he's going to be potentially great at Miami.
Damian Martinez, we talked about this on a previous show. That's one of the first time you've seen a player transfer who was committed to a school and then felt like he was wronged by the NIL collective at the school. And he had a lot of things to say about that. And it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. And does the Damian Martinez case have any kind of trickle-down effect to other schools or to trying to get control over how the NIL works with the schools and all that? Because seeing Damian Martinez not in an Oregon State uniform this year is going to be shocking just because of the reason of that. Because he was committed and the NIL did him wrong as far as his side of the argument goes.
Yeah, that one. So more updates to come to rankings there. We're going to do a full post-spring rankings update. Depth charts should be good. I've gone through all quarterback rooms, all running back rooms within the last week. More changes obviously to come, but as far as a full-on let's reset, let's look at the rankings after all the movement is kind of settled. Well, there is still a little bit more movement expected, but mostly settled. So we'll be making some adjustments there. Some big movers recently include obviously Marquez Cooper, Quali Conley has moved up quite a bit. So he is the RB1 locked in at Arizona because oh no, I'm just so bad with names today. Whatever. Ja'Cory Krosky, blah blah blah. Sorry, transferred to Ole Miss, And so that like left it wide open for Conley. Those two were kind of projected to share, and now Conley is up there in the top. I think we've got him at 26, Floyd Chalk at 28, Lee Beebe at 29. Those are some big movers. And then LJ Martin, we had a stat adjustment there for BYU running backs last year, kind of being an anomaly. I expect LJ Martin to get a ton of run this year. And then one other, Jamius Griffin, expected to kind of replace Damian Martinez there at Oregon State, where they're in a good spot with the O-line. So he'll go from grids into the top, probably land in the top 40-ish.
Yeah, that's that. He's probably going to be one of the biggest movers we've seen in quite a while, because being behind Damian Martinez, who was the bell cow there, to just unexpectedly seeing him out of there, that leaves a huge wide open gap in the Oregon State offense.
Yeah.
All right. So with that being said, there's always going to be more news and notes. We're going to be posting news and notes. When Doug is here and he's back off his NIL contract dispute, he'll be giving out some more news and notes. But for now, today, we're going to get to the main topic of our show, and that is who they think are going to be the top wide receivers in the college football video game. This is totally different than what we think are going to be the top performing players in college football as far as fantasy goes. We're trying to put ourselves in the mind of the developers and see who we think they are going to put at the top of the list. So we are going to jump right into that. So BMac, are you going to pull it up? I guess I got the article. You got the highlights over there. So we are going to start with a guy that is near and dear to my heart because he plays for the team that I'm a fan of, North Carolina State Wolfpack. Number 10 on our list is Kevin Concepcion. Concepcion, one of the first guys. I mean, you had Emeka Emezi, that was a big time star for NC State for a while, but he wasn't as big of a name on a national scale. Kevin Concepcion has got a huge name on a national scale after his freshman year. And I think that that's something that's key is you have to have that national vibe around you for the developers to want to make you higher up in the game. They're not going to go and put somebody from Kennesaw State, even if they are the greatest player in the world, as the top receiver, unless they've got some kind of buzz around him. What do you think about Concepcion there, BMac?
I mean, I did add Kennesaw State to the depth charts, by the way, so that's live and available. We've got quarterbacks and running backs there, but I mean, Concepcion, first of all, the hair is perfect. Gotta love that. And then just NFL talent. Like, he comes out as a freshman and he's great. I look forward to seeing how he does this year. As far as fantasy is concerned, I do think he's going to drop just because Noah Rogers is there. Jolly at tight end is going to get a lot of touches. But NC State's going to be a fun freaking team to watch this year.
Oh yeah. We had NC State had one of the best wide receiver groups coming in that has ever happened at that school, whether it be coming in from the high school ranks, coming in from the portal. The number of wide receivers are so many that some of them are having to switch over to play defense because they just weren't going to get playing time. You're talking like between the class and the portal, like 4, 5, 6 guys that are 4-star or better. That being said, I think that Concepcion, even though he might take a little of a hit, the new quarterback, having Grayson McCall coming in from Coastal Carolina, if you followed McCall at Coastal Carolina, his top end targets always got tons and tons and tons of targets. So if Concepcion is able to get that relationship with McCall, you might see him be able to keep the kind of stats that he had in last year. We'll just have to see. We'll have to see. So coming up next, number 9 is going to be Travis Hunter. We just talked about Colorado, just talked about some guys leaving Colorado. So with another year under his belt at Colorado, Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, and hopefully an improved offensive line. BMac, what do you think about Hunter being number 9 there?
After the spring game, it still looks like he's going to be he's going to run with the offense. He'll run with the defense too. In like Devy leagues, it's still a huge risk because you don't know when they draft him into the NFL. Is he going to play receiver? Is he going to play DB? That's a tough one. So he's dropping in drafts. You've got LeJontay Wester, who had over 100 catches last year. You've got Will Shepherd coming in from Vanderbilt, who's a really good talent, great red zone target, and some returnees from last year. So it's going to be tough to see how these targets go in terms of fantasy. But as a player, I mean, all the talent in the world. Like, you could argue that us having him rated as a 87 or an 88 as a true sophomore is low. What do you think, Matt? What do you think he'll actually be rated at? Do you agree with our rating?
I think that Travis Hunter being at number 9, again, we go back to the what I said in the last one, where you need to have that national buzz. And I don't think there was anybody that got more talk on a national scale last year than Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. So I think that just from a national consciousness, there's probably nobody that people know more about than that Colorado offense, just in that buzz area. So I think that being in the top 10 is definitely something that it makes sense. I think that absolutely makes sense. Now, when you're talking about the awareness rating, I think maybe Concepcion should have been higher than him in awareness. I don't know, but I do think that it makes sense if you look at the guys you have from 1 to 8 that are above him. His number should be lower than the awareness of the guys that are above him. So I think the rankings are accurate.
Do you remember? Could you physically put people on the video game? Could you put them at DB and wide receiver, or did you have to pick one? I know they only could have one position, obviously, but I think on the depth chart you could edit it. But you can only go so far. Like, you couldn't add a kicker at receiver or whatever.
Right. I think you could, but I think that if you did that it would take an incredible hit. So, like, unless the guy has got an absolutely incredible endurance or something like that, then when you put somebody out of position, I feel like the game did not handle that well. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle somebody that's a true dual threat, just as good on one side of the ball as the other.
As far as endurance goes, Travis Hunter would be the first one to hit 100 there.
Yeah.
I can't remember, like, some record number of snaps he played early in the season.
He was getting that was one of the talks at the beginning of the season, is how could he be playing that many snaps and still be fresh at the end of the game? It's crazy. All right, so let's move on. Let's move on now. So at number 8, they think Trey Harris is going to be the next guy from Ole Miss. So, BMAC, let's talk about Trey Harris a bit. I know you're an SEC guy. You've got a lot of experience looking at these SEC guys. Tell us a little bit more about Trey Harris.
He's got everything: size, speed, hands, and he's going to have a great quarterback, obviously, Jackson Dart. There's other wide receivers around him. Like, Ole Miss will be one of the best offenses in the video game and in real life. Incredible talent at receiver to go with Jackson Dart. So you'll see him. Like, he's physical. He's probably more of probably like an AJ Brown type of player comp, and just great hands, great balance, great power. He's not going to blow you away with speed. And if I said great speed, like literally a minute ago, my bad. I'd say he's got solid speed, though. He's not just he's not a speedster. He's not a worthy type body type.
Well, one of the interesting things looking at the projected rankings, if you look at the article on the CFBDynasty.com website, there are projections of what they think the ratings are going to be. And Trey Harris, even though he's ranked number 8, has got the number 2 catch rating, and he's got the number 2 awareness rating. So that's something you really want out of a wide receiver, especially in the game, because if your awareness is down, they might run the wrong route. They might run a route behind somebody when they should run it in front of somebody. So even though he's at number 8, he's got one of the highest catch ratings and awareness ratings that we project. So that's somebody you definitely want to be keeping your eye on.
Man, do you remember this was a few video games ago, which is probably like 13, 14 years ago, when they had the home field advantage and you brought out like a freshman quarterback on the road at a hostile environment, and like the screen is shaking, all the wide receiver routes are shaking. You try and hot route somebody and they're like walking over because they can't hear you. They don't know what you said, kind of thing.
I absolutely remember that. I absolutely remember that, man.
Oh, good times.
All right, so let's move on here. Let's move on to number 7. University of Miami, we just talked about them with the running back transferring in, but we're going to a wide receiver, Xavier Restrepo. So, BMAC, let's talk about an ACC wide receiver out of South Florida. What do you think about this guy?
They had mostly ineffective quarterback play last year. Van Dyke threw a ton of picks, and he's gone now. So, man, it's going to be interesting to see how this offense kind of transitions to the new quarterback. But Restrepo is going to be the featured target at receiver. So he's got everything. He's not super tall. He's going to be, not scared to run across the middle. He'll be just frequently targeted. He'll be all over the field. And he's got speed to be like probably project in the NFL more as a slot type of receiver. But in college, he's just going to be the featured guy at Miami this year. Just great talent, great production. I think he had 70 plus catches, almost 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns last year. So that's one that I think the touchdown production is going to go up quite a bit as far as fantasy goes. That'll help out. Love Restrepo, though.
I don't know if it's going to affect him in the video game as much, but I think in the real world, having Martinez going to be in that backfield, it's going to probably do nothing but help him because defenses can't just key on him. They're going to have to be, staying home and keying on that running back as well. So he's probably going to get more from a fantasy perspective there. All right. So
the Gators match up with week 1 in the Swamp. That's going to be a must-win wild one.
All right. So next up, going all the way out to the other coast of the country, going from the southeast to the northwest, Tez Johnson at Oregon.
I can't believe he's still a free agent in our league, I think. But it's going to be interesting with Evan Stewart coming in to see the dispersion of passing, of course. So Dylan Gabriel, though, being more of a pocket passer, a really great pocket passer. I think Tez, Evan Stewart, both will be, yes, NFL future wide receivers. Tez just has that speed. He's going to take the top off the defense. And the O-line improving, it's going to give Dylan Gabriel plenty of time. This offense is going to be a problem this year. But love Tez, and I think he's going to just be, with his speed, his acceleration, he'll be super fun to target in the video game.
And I think seeing him go from one top-end quarterback to another is going to be huge. I think that's going to probably help out his pro potential, his Devy potential, if he could go in and put up the same kind of numbers from one quarterback to another this year. That's going to be massive.
Yeah, love this offense. I cannot wait to watch what happens with. I just think Oregon's going to click, and what makes it even more exciting is them going into the Big Ten for the first time. It's going to be pretty intense.
Well, speaking about the Big Ten, we're going to stay there. Number 5, a team that gets talked about every year probably just as much as Alabama does, and that is Ohio State, a guy you hear us talk about all the time, Emeka Egbuka. BMAC, I want to know why Egbuka, because it's the video game. You don't have him at number 1. Why is he all the way down at number 5? And again, I'm not saying Egbuka is the number 1 guy coming into the year. I'm saying, again, with the national press, with the pedigree of being the number 1 guy at Ohio State, what puts him at 5 and not at 1 for you?
Oh, it's just about the talent and production ahead of him. So that's really it. Like, Egbuka is going to be one of the best. I think we've got him at a 94 overall. Yep. And he's got great speed, acceleration, good catching, good awareness. A lot of people thought he'd be in the draft, including me. A lot of people thought he'd be in the draft this past year, but he's going to come back for one more year to try and establish himself as probably a top, 15 or 20 type of draft prospect, or at least that's probably somewhere in there will be his ceiling. But great hands. Obviously, Ohio State is going to have a ton of options. I think he's probably potentially the 3rd most talented receiver on the team. He's just got that awareness and experience that, puts him up there at number 5.
Do you think he's got a chance to be the number 1 wide receiver off the board next year in the NFL draft? Who do you think is going to go ahead of him?
Does he have a chance? He's got a chance, of course, because he is that talented. But I love our number 1 and our number 3 player on this list better than him. I don't think either of those two will fall below Ibuka, and I totally could be wrong. But as I sit here right now, I'd roll with our number 1 and number 3 player on the list.
All right. So you know what? You just talked about number 1 and number 3. So let's get right to not talking about them and go to number 4. So number 4, Torrey Horton from Colorado State. Colorado State putting up all kinds of points, all kinds of yards to Torrey Horton. Let's talk about Torrey Horton and why he's up there. He now, real quick, he is the only one that we project to have a 99 awareness. He's got 98 catch, 99 awareness. He, in those two spots, is the number 1 that we project in both of those categories. So let's talk a little bit more about Torrey Horton.
Yeah, I think he's got over 3,000 yards receiving already in college. So that would be thus the 99 there and awareness. Not the fastest. He's got good size and strength. So 6'2", 190. So he is an NFL prospect, but not a first round type of guy. So, I thought he would either go to the draft last year, or I thought he would transfer to somewhere, like a wide receiver needy program and kill it at a big school, and then maybe, get into that first round. But Horton's been around. He's been there, done that. I think he's got, I think over 3,000 yards in his career already. So Horton, super, super productive, incredible catch radius, great hands, not the fastest, but he'll go over the middle. He'll go deep. He'll do punt returns. He'll do it all.
Yeah, Torrey Horton is somebody that he's the kind of guy that has some of those games that are just like, he'll put up 40 fantasy points or some nonsense like that. Yes. He's an absolute dream killer when he gets on the field. He can take over an entire fantasy game with a ridiculous stat line in a game. So next up, we're going to go to Evan Stewart. So this is the only school in Oregon that puts 2 guys into the top 10, into the top 6. So if you're somebody that wants to play the video game and be like, you know what, I just want to go pick a team that is going to go blow people up, Oregon is probably going to be, from an offensive perspective, one of the teams that's going to be the easiest to do it, because you're going to have 2 different wide receivers out there. You've got a top-end quarterback. So BMAC, let's talk a little bit about Evan Stewart there and why you've got Stewart ahead of Tez Johnson in this in these rankings.
So Evan Stewart came out as a 5-star prospect. And, he's lived up to the billing. Like, he's absolutely incredible just watching him. He's 6 foot, 175, incredible speed, incredible hops, but just plays the ball so well. And he's just different. Like, he's going to be an NFL difference maker. I think he's everything that you wanted Kayshon Boutte to be in the NFL, but he's just faster. And he's going to be hyper productive, I think, this year. He battled injuries, battled things a little bit at Texas A&M. Obviously, A&M was, kind of falling down under Jimbo Fisher. So he's only had 6 touchdowns in his career. That's going to go way, way up this year.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting seeing him going from playing against SEC defenses. If this was last year, he'd be going to play against Pac-12 defenses, but now he's going to go playing against Big Ten defenses. So how do you think he's going to be able to fare playing against some of the Big Ten defenses as compared to SEC?
That is a great question. And that's one of those things where I want to see, how is, USC going to play? How will Oregon play, et cetera? And as far as Oregon goes, I think they are so balanced. They're so good along the O-line too, that I think they're going to be great. So if we look at the schedule, it's, Idaho, Boise State, whatever, Oregon State, whatever, UCLA, Michigan State, then at home. And then you get into the beef of the schedule with Ohio State. But then it kind of goes down to Purdue, Illinois. Like, I think Oregon, they've got a great chance. Ohio State, that game, by the way, October 12th, is at Autzen Stadium. Their biggest road test will be at Michigan early November. So I think Oregon is they're gonna compete to win the Big Ten in year one.
That'd be interesting to see that, especially with the talent they have on offense. They've probably got the ability to do it. All right, we've gone through 10 through 3. Now let's take a look at number 2. You got Tatoria McMillan from Arizona, another guy that put up tons and tons and tons of stats so far. Why do you think that he is going to rise all the way above all these guys from Ohio State and Oregon and Miami? How is he the one that is right there at that number 2 spot in your mind?
Well, so in the video game, part of it is going to be experience. So as a freshman, he came out 40 catches, 700 yards, 8 touchdowns. As a sophomore, 90 catches, 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns. So I think he'll be right there. And while Evan Stewart has a higher ceiling, you've had that production from Tet McMillan. So as far as the video game rankings are concerned, I think he's going to be a little bit higher, and he's the feature of the Arizona offense. So I like Tet McMillan a lot. 6'5", 210, good speed, and he'll have solid awareness in the game coming into what will probably be his last season of college football before he goes to the NFL draft next year.
One of the things that'll be interesting, you bring up he's 6'5", seeing what his jump rating is going to be in the game.
Yeah.
Where if you're a good skilled guy on the controller, like somebody like BMAC was back in the day, if you got a receiver that's 6'5", that's going to be an unfair advantage trying to jump over top of some smaller DBs. And that could be a reason why. Again, this is what we think the video game is going to be setting these rankings at. And if he's number 2, being 6'5", if he has a good jump number in there, he could become somebody that a player could use and abuse.
Use and abuse, yeah. I'm excited for this game. It'll be fun.
All right, so we have got the number 1 guy coming up. So BMAC, hold the highlight real quick. So real quick, from 10 to 2, you got Kevin Concepcion at NC State. Number 9, Travis Hunter, Colorado. Number 8, Trey Harris at Ole Miss. Number 7, Xavier Restrepo from Miami. Number 6, Tez Johnson from Oregon. Number 5, Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. Number 4, Torrey Horton from Colorado State. Number 3, Evan Stewart at Oregon. Number 2, Tet McMillan from Arizona. But now the number 1 guy that they think are going to put at the top in the video game, Luther Burden III from Missouri. BMAC.
Also our number 1 Devi prospect at receiver. What? All right, let's change this to a little consulting session here while these highlights play. This guy's a beast. He looks like a little bit mix of maybe a Jamar Chase-ish out there, but he's just got his different skill set a little bit, but he's got the size, the speed, he's got it all, the experience. Burden we've got at a 97, the highest rated receiver. Should I offer Dillingham? Should I offer him picks 1, 2, and 3 next year for Burden?
Wow. So hold on. So you're trying to get him, or you're trying?
Yeah, if I'm trying to get him, yeah.
Man, I can tell you what, this is the kind of thing as a player, when you see 2 guys that are at the top of the league always trying to make a trade, it makes you cringe because you know that one of them is going to come out on the good side of this thing. That's a lot to give up for one guy, but you know what? I know that you normally have got a lot of additional picks when it comes to the draft. If you've got additional picks, that'd be one thing, but
I don't.
That seems like a lot to give up for one guy, but unless you think he's got big pro potential, unless you think he's going to be around for a long time, you could be giving up a lot for maybe a very small amount of production. If he's going to be the guy that's going to get you to a ship, maybe go 1, 2, and 3. But if you don't think he's going to be the one that's going to take you to winning a championship, I think that's a big price to pay.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll text him right after this. But yeah, Burden Burden is legit. There's a few guys that barely missed the list. So I don't know if we want to touch on a couple of those, but
Yeah, why not? Absolutely. I mean, we got a couple minutes, touch on a couple of the guys. So that's our top 10. Who are a couple of guys that you considered for this top 10 and why didn't they make it?
Yeah, so just really close, really close. Berrien Brown at Kentucky, super talented, future NFL prospect. Eugene Wilson at Florida, he was right there. And then others that I think will be close-ish, probably more like a 85, 86 range in terms of rating. Zachariah Branch at USC is one that will be up there, and one of the most electric players, one of the most fun people to play with in the game, because his speed and acceleration are both going to be, elite, like 97 plus. But those are a few.
So while we're sitting here on the podcast, just had a nice little update come through on my phone. So I don't think the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are going to try and have like a 10 wide receiver room. They just signed Odell Beckham. They just actually signed the contract. So draft 2 wide receivers. So if you're somebody that has either one of the Washingtons that the Dolphins drafted on your college to pro team, you're like, dude, how are we going to get all these guys on the squad? That's crazy. That's crazy. But what do you think about that move, B-Mac? What do you think about OBJ going to the Dolphins?
I just cut him like 2 weeks ago. I was like, man, is there any hope for him? And I don't think so. In terms of a good fantasy production, like I think he's still a good receiver, but he's not.
I think he's going to get
days are over.
Yeah, he's going to get lost in that offense.
Yeah,
doesn't mean he's not going to get some plays. Doesn't mean he's not going to have a chance to do something. But that's still an interesting move. I mean, that's one of those things that just came through while we were doing this pod. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So again, if you enjoyed this article, there'll be more things like this. We want to know what you think. Who you think should have been on this article that's not. Posted in the comments, posted in the Discord. Also, if you think that we have the rankings a little bit mixed up, if you think that somebody should be higher on the list or lower, let us know. That's part of the fun of college fantasy football and college football and video games in general is the banter. So don't be afraid to go up there and let us know what you think. So BMAC, upcoming shows, tell us what's going to be happening in the coming weeks on this podcast.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit earlier that there's a big rankings update coming, essentially where we comb through everyone again and make sure all of the spring roster movement, injuries, etc., were accounted for. And we'll have a rankings update show and go over all the biggest movers next, all about college fantasy rankings. And it'll be fun. We just need probably 8 hours or so to go over all of these together, and then it'll be ready for the show.
And then sometime soon, we're going to be doing a live mock draft. That's always fun to see how the live mock drafts go down. BMAC, is that going to have just you, me, and Doug? Or are we going to try and get some people from out there in the weeds to participate as well?
Yeah, totally down to get some other people in there. As far as for the sake of the show, it'd be easier if we're doing it live together, just to make sure the picks happen quickly. We've got maybe a few, automated drafters in there, but we have planned. Like I've got one built. Haven't really posted about it much. I did post it in the Discord, and had a couple people jump in. So we do have a mock draft that we're going to do with whoever. So yeah, hit me up if you want to join in, mock it up.
All right, good stuff. So we've reached the end of the show. BMAC, is there anything else that you want to talk about, personal, professional, whatever, before we get on out of here for the day?
Yes, I need more trade advice. One last little bit. So on my NFL side of the roster, I just need a filler receiver. But on the college side in this offer, I covet badly Zachariah Branch, who lost me money a lot last year because I kept putting him in lineups in like DraftKings and whatnot, and expecting, all right, he's going to break out this week. Oh yeah, he's too talented. Look at that speed. And I am a sucker for like that kind of speed. It kills me. So I was offering the 1.3 in this draft coming up and a first round pick next year to Davis, for Branch and Christian Kirk. What are your thoughts / advice?
You know what? I could see that. I could see that. I think that's something that could be beneficial for both teams. Again, if you're somebody that's named Mike and has the last initial D in these leagues, you never want to be dealing with BMAC, Mike Davis, Mike Dillingham, just because they're all so good. Basically, the three of them just hand around the championship trophy every single year. It's going to be one of the three of them, you think.
Nah.
But I think that's something that could be beneficial for both of you guys, because Davis's roster is only so deep that he needs to get rid of some guys because he just doesn't have enough roster room for it. That could be beneficial for both of you.
Yeah, we'll see. I've got to make a move. He's got to make a move. I don't know if that will be the move, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyways, no, that's really all. How about you? What's up?
Tomorrow I'm going to be at a Bearded Brown Coat in Ocala, Florida for Free Comic Book Day. If you're somebody that's into comics, into collectibles, things like that, this is like a national holiday of comics. Like if you go to any comic book store in the country, they've probably got something going on for Free Comic Book Day. It's a time where you can go in there and there's probably going to be a table that's got literal comics that are for Free Comic Day. You can walk out of there without spending a cent on 5 or 6 comics. It's just one of those things they do. But if you go to one of your local comic book shops, you're going to have creators there. I know that Steph, the other half of InSim, is going to be at one in Visalia, California. There's some comic book stores that are going to have like 10, 12 creators there. But try and go out. You want to go get some free stuff. You want to go meet some creators. You want to go meet me, whatever. Come on out there to Bearded Brown Coat in Ocala, or go to your local LCS. I'm sure they're going to have some fun stuff out there. And if you're watching this before 9:00 tonight, you can see my name, tinyurl.com/TFNRE. We are on Kickstarter right now with one of our comics, with one of our graphic novels. It ends tonight at 9:00. So if you want to go up there and jump up and see what else happens with me when I'm not doing the college football stuff, that's where you can go.
Boom.
That's right.
Boom. That's awesome.
All right, guys, we thank you so much for listening to this podcast, sharing this podcast, being a part of this. The community around college fantasy football is one of the best. Let's help it grow. Let's communicate and let's have fun with this. On behalf of that guy, Brian McElfresh, and also Doug, who is out there doing whatever the heck Doug is doing. My name is Matt Knowles. This has been the CFBDynasty.com podcast. Thank you guys for watching and listening.
Thank you for listening to the CFB Dynasty Podcast. Help us out by subscribing on YouTube and reviewing us on your podcast network.